It's the classic, the Casio DW-290. What can you can't say a whole lot more about this particular watch. So I'm just going to go over my experiences. You know all the Mission Impossible stuff, which was really cool in the 90s, okay? The original Mission Impossible in 96, Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise wearing this watch in the movie. But it's the look of it that does it for me. And so I'm going to go over it. If the Mercedes SL 500 was the sports car of the 90s, then I really do think that the Casio DW-290 was the sports watch of the 90s. Because when I think of just old school digital quartz sports watches, this is the one that comes to mind. This is the one that I picture when I think of that era of watches and what you wore on your wrist. And it just has that look that screams 90s never way. Just words everywhere. It's like the old Sony stereo systems where it's just words for the sake of words. The electroluminescent backlight, illuminator, you had just stuff everywhere. The turquoise, because you had to have a little bit of turquoise with everything in the 90s. Then you get the electroluminescence there, the EL lighting, the backlighting, which is great, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But I know they went for kind of the diver aesthetic here. Then you had the pistons on the side to kind of give it that industrial look. But whatever the combination was, it just absolutely worked. And then you add in the wearability of it, you add in the durability of it, you add in the water resistance, and you had yourself an absolute winner of a package. In fact, I think when Urban Gentry did his video on it and said that they were discontinued, I did what he did. I went on Amazon and got a new one. So you can see mine. This is my one, a few years old at this point. You can see it's worn off here a little bit at the top and signs of wear because I wear it quite a bit, at least once or twice a week. So it gets its use. So I went and bought a fresh one so I could just always have one of these in good repair if needed. But just overall, 24-hour time possible, day and date on the top, functionality. You had alarm, you had timer, stopwatch, and then back to the thing. One of the newer ones, the DW-291 actually added dual time, so you could have some functionality. It's dual time or world time, but I believe it's dual time. So you could have some added functionality, but that didn't really bother me with this one. Smaller display. It's a thicker watch, and you had a little bit of a smaller display, but for whatever reason, that never bothered me. I know that's one thing they corrected on the they changed on the 291, is that they give it a little bit more readable display or face on it. And it never really bothered me that it was a bit smaller. I think the actual readable area was something like 34 millimeters. It was small in comparison to the overall size of the watch, which wears kind of like a 44 millimeter watch on the wrist because of all the bezel and all the kind of superstructure you have around the watch itself. But you can see that design I was talking about, just a very 90s aesthetic with the turquoise, with the red that you get around the side here, all the wording that you have on it, and just the functionality. 200 meters of water resistance, which for watches in this price range is pretty impressive. In fact, you could get these for, I think it was $30. You can still get them for close to 40, but between $30 and $34 when they were really at their peak, you could pick one of these up. And the functionality that you got in comparison to something like a G-Shock absolutely made them worth it. When you talk about $20 watches and kind of the stuff that you get with those, it's not often as impressive. You get 50 or 100 meters of water resistance. You don't get the build quality. You certainly don't get the design. So to kind of upgrade yourself a little bit, extra $10 gets you a watch that you can take anywhere, do anything with, doesn't matter what you're doing that day, and have it last for years and years. This was one of the ones that you bought and you could just beat it up, especially as a kid. When you buy one of these, you just beat them up and they just last and be there for you every single day, much like a G-Shock, and it would take those tumbles as well. It doesn't have the kind of band that you could put in what'll protect it from the shock, so it doesn't have those locked-in bands, so it kind of lays flat. But to me, I actually kind of like that because it helps the fit on the wrist. I always got a fantastic fit with my DW-290. It never felt uncomfortable. It never felt rigid. It always felt a part of my wrist. And especially during the summertime, if you're doing a lot of activities, if it's warm out, that comfortable fit makes a difference, especially athletic sports. You're doing stuff, moving around a lot. That extra comfort makes a difference as opposed to something a little bit bulky. And this is bulky, don't get me wrong, but because of that fit, it feels a little bit less bulky than something like those G-Shocks with the rigid bands coming off the top there. So that's something to consider as well. I really love, I don't understand. Other manufacturers, Armatron still does it. Other manufacturers kept with the electroluminescence. I don't know what the reasoning was that Casio, for the most part, has moved away with it. There's a vibration alarm watch that I'm gonna review next week with a negative display that has the super illuminator, which comes close. It's that nice white background that comes and lights up the whole display. But I don't know why. Maybe it's a power efficiency thing that they went with those dull amber LEDs. Can't stand them. Some of them have better ones than others. That's fine. Usually sometimes they'll put 2 in there that help out. But there was nothing that could beat just the even lighting across the entire panel of the electroluminescence. Timex still gives you Indiglow across most of their devices, if not all of them. So I don't know why Casio really went away for that. And some of the higher-end watches, not higher-end, but in the same price range. I reviewed the $30 MVD watch, or whatever the model number is, that only had one amber light on the one side, and by the time you got to the end of the watch face, the right side, you couldn't read it. Very strange to me that they either have that or just kind of the white one, which is fine. I like the white display one is okay. But again, nothing to me. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe, but I do believe there is some ease of use and some readability things and things to be said about the extra electroluminescence and the color, which is fantastic, but just getting that nice even light so you can see the entire display. Signal, all the stuff that you're going to want. You can blink on the hour, that stuff as well. So if those are some old school quartz digital features that you like, they're here. Everything that you wanted was here in this watch. If you could pick one up, link will be in the description. Like I said, right now around $40. Absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. If you don't like the aesthetic of the G-Shock, if you don't want to carry that bulk around, if it's just the price, they're often $55 plus now for the base ones, and then on up from there. If those never spoke to you, especially the original G-Shock didn't speak to you, this one will absolutely be worth a look. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.